Welcome to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. And now, it's time for our story. Once upon a time, there was an Avocet named William. William the Avocet lived on a marshland that was in between the forest and hills. He was a kind-hearted Avocet that always thought of other creatures first. He was so kind-hearted that every animal that lived on the marshland knew him to be so. Every morning, as the sunlight glistened on the surface of the marsh, William would be out wading in the waters along with all the other Avocets. All the Avocets would be scything the water to catch some food. Some Avocets had more food than others, and when they were full, they would leave and the other Avocets would go to the same spot to catch some food as well. All kinds of animals were at the marsh, joining along in the feeding. Terns would fly around and swoop down and catch some fish, while some stilts would strut across the marsh with their long legs and look for food too. William the Avocet would never hesitate to share the food that was around him. There was always enough food in the marsh for all the animals, and he never thought that he had to be selfish about the food. Sometimes, he would see another Avocet not catching as much as they can to eat, and William would share and give his food to them. William the Avocet really understood the importance of being part of a big group that looks out for each other, even if some were not willing to think the same way. As the days turned to weeks in the marshland, William the Avocet started to notice a troubling pattern. The other creatures on the marsh, like the other Avocets, the stilts, and the terns, were starting to take advantage of William's kindness. The creatures all knew William was nice and generous, so every time they saw William about to catch some food to eat, they would all flock to him and ask for the food. And William, being kind-hearted and always thinking of others first, would always just let the other creatures have his food, even if he was a little hungry. "Wow," said William the Avocet, "there are more hungry birds here than before. I wonder what's happening." The stilts would push aside the other Avocets. The terns would swoop down and take another fish next to William. Some of the other Avocets would also start to bully the others by eating more than they can eat. And what started to happen was that William the Avocet noticed all the creatures around him were becoming selfish and did not care for the others. All the other Avocets, terns, and stilts were wading in the water with their mouths full of fish, insects, and the small shrimp that were in the marshland. William, then, was finally able to eat some of the leftover insects and shrimp after all the others ate and were full. But this did not change William at all. He was just fine eating the leftovers because he didn't like stuffing himself full like the other birds were doing. He was content with eating until he had enough. William the Avocet didn't find any thrills in having all the best food to himself. He was actually more happy when he was able to make sure another creature was feeling happy and was well fed. He was just a really nice Avocet. One day, a disaster struck the marshland. A sudden storm broke out and started moving across the land. The marsh was facing strong winds and heavy rains. Plants and debris was being blown around, while the water started to surge, and all of a sudden, it was flooding the birds' nests, and all the creatures in the marshland were being threatened by this huge storm. Some of the birds were able to fly away to a safer place, but there were still some remaining that weren't able to fly away in time, and now they were all just waiting for the storm to end. The rain was pouring down so hard, and the wind was blowing so hard that all the birds could do was cover themselves and tuck in as much as they can. All the leftover birds were slowly moving out of the marsh as it was getting flooded. William the Avocet started making his way to higher ground, and he noticed that all the other birds were following him, also trying to make it to higher ground. But the other birds were making their way up by pushing each other and trying to hop on top of each other to get there first. Some of the terns hopped on top of the Avocets, and some of the stilts walked over the terns, and they were all pushing each other aside to get to higher ground to avoid being in the flooded marsh. William was actually in the front of this whole group of birds escaping. And when William turned around to see the other birds, he said, "Hey everyone, this way to higher ground." One of the terns said to William,
"Hey, I want to go there first."
A stilt then said, "No way, I want to be there first." Still, another Avocet said,
"Yeah, right. I'm going to make sure me and the Avocets all make it to higher ground and get the best spots before all of you."
As the birds were all arguing and pushing to be the first, William noticed that none of them were getting anywhere. The rain was pouring too strong for them to fly, so they were all walking and hopping to get to the top. But in all their efforts to be the first to get to the top, they became selfish and only thought of themselves, not noticing that it was making it hard for all of them to get anywhere. William was in the front of all of them, and he heard them bickering about being the first ones up out of the flood. Instead of joining in, William the Avocet took a deep breath and turned back to face the group. "Listen, everyone," he called out above the howling wind. "There's no need to fight amongst ourselves. We can all make it to safety if we work together." One of the stilts said, "But that means I won't be first." William said, "No, you probably won't be first, but you won't be in the flood either." The stilt said, "Oh yeah, you're right." One of the terns said to William, "Oh, I get it. If we're trying to get to the top of the high ground before all the others, then none of us will get up there." William said, "Exactly, because you're all trying to hop and climb over each other to get up, but you're all just stuck in the same place, fighting to get out of the flood." One of the Avocets asked, "Then what do you suppose we do?" "We need to work together," William replied. "Help each other climb, support one another. If we do that, we'll all make it to higher ground safely." The birds hesitated at first, unsure if William's plan would work. But as the rain continued to pour and the flood waters rose, they realized they had no other choice. So they formed a line with William at the front, and they started helping each other up the slope. With William's guidance, the birds started helping each other. The Avocets formed a line, allowing the stilts and terns to climb on their backs. They worked as a team, pushing through the rising waters until they reached the safety of the high ground. It was slow going at first, but as they worked together, they started to make progress. The stilts used their long legs to steady the others, and the terns used their wings to shield the smaller birds from the rain. And the Avocets helped each other climb. Finally, after what seemed like forever, they all reached the top of the high ground, safe and sound. All the birds looked on as their marshland was flooded and the winds tossed and turned. The birds didn't all get to be the first or get the best spot on the higher ground, but they were all safe together, and that's what mattered the most. The storm eventually passed, and the floodwaters came down, leaving the marshland a mess. But at least the birds were okay. And the marshland soon enough got filled with all sorts of creatures again. And the Avocets, stilts, and terns came back after the weather cleared up, and there was a new excitement in the waters. The birds were all living in harmony. The terns waited for some of the Avocets to eat before they swooped down to get their own food. The Avocets made sure the stilts had enough space to find their own food, and the stilts called down to the terns flying above to swoop down on some fishes they saw. And as William the Avocet looked upon all the creatures in the marshland, all of the birds were helping each other now, and the only kind of arguing was the birds insisting the other birds eat first. Some of the terns would say to the Avocets, "You go ahead and eat first. I'll wait." Some of the Avocets would tell the stilts, "Please eat. I can wait." And some of the stilts would say to the terns, "Go on, dive and catch your food. I have all day to wait." And ever since then, to all the creatures that lived around there, the place became known as the Marshlands of Kindness. And the Avocet lived happily ever after. The end. The Avocet is a genus of birds that live near bodies of saltwater and freshwater and are known as wading birds because they can always be found wading in bodies of shallow water, where they spend time walking around with their webbed feet underwater while their bodies are above the water looking for food. The Avocet is closely related to the stilt, and although they are different, people normally confuse them as being the same. There are 4 species of Avocets in the genus Recurvirostra. These are the American Avocet, the Andean Avocet, pied Avocet, and red-necked Avocet. The Avocet can be found in Asia, Europe, North America, Australia, and South America. The Avocet's diet includes insects, fish, and crustaceans. The Avocet's long beak is curved up, and their long legs makes it look like they're walking on stilts. When Avocets eat, they bend down while wading in the water and move their beaks side to side under the water in what's called scything. The Avocet can live up to 15 years. The Avocet's legs are usually blue or gray, and they're very long. The Avocet has webbed feet, which allows them to swim well, and their feathers can range from black, white, red, and brown. The Avocet's wingspan can be up to 31 inches wide. They can weigh from 5 to 14 ounces, and they can be from 16 to 18 inches long. The Avocet's main predators are weasels, skunks, and foxes. Avocets can be found all around the world near bodies of water like marshlands, ponds, beaches, flatlands, and lakes. The Avocet builds their nests in the ground near large bodies of water. They'll use all kinds of things for their nests, like soil, pebbles, and all sorts of debris they could find. If and when the water ever rises to cover their nests, they can build their nest even taller into kind of like a mound. Avocets work together to protect their homes from other birds and can be very defensive of their area. Avocets are mostly active during sunrise and sunset. Avocets are ready to hunt for food in the waters as babies and can swim as soon as they're born. Have you seen a real-life Avocet before? If you have, where did you see it? Thanks for listening to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. Until next time, bye!